Hey, what's up? It's Patrick Lovell, Truth Bomb riffing on Wednesday, August 23rd at 10 a.m. I'm going to keep these things coming. I'm going to try to keep them shorter, but it's ridiculous, America. It's ridiculous that I'm a dude that maybe literally the entire country should know, but doesn't. I'm a guy that on Facebook, not Facebook, what am I saying? On YouTube, I probably have 648 subscribers, and that was an improvement from a couple of weeks ago to a couple of months ago. I mean, look, on TikTok, I've had 7.5 million views. On Facebook, I don't know, 5,000 plus followers, yada, yada, yada. I'm a television producer. I'm an investigative journalist. I've created the most important documentary series of our time that nobody in the general public understands or is aware of because we live in a system and a machinery of lies. Mammoth, monstrous, ridiculous, insane lies to hide the system of deception and debauchery and, quite frankly, treachery behind the scenes that has got an iron lock on the power, and it's stupid. America, we're stupid. You're stupid. I'm stupid. We're all stupid for being able to allow this to have happened. It's like nobody has a freaking clue what the United States is supposed to be. Now, we hear it all the time, and we hear it all the time in this whole scenario with, all things Donald Trump, particularly on media that's not supportive of Donald Trump, that says, look, the democracy depends on being able to handle or hold Donald Trump to account, and that, look, nobody is above the law. Bullshit, nobody is above the law. Are you freaking kidding me? Our entire financial system and most of the fossil fuel sort of paradigm and other elements of military, industrial, and quite frankly, obviously biopharma and gun manufacturers, and the list goes on, are above the frickin' law, okay? You live in a fascist state. You live in a corporate fascist state, but here's the irony, the ultimate irony. We're supposed to be a capitalist country. We're not. Those rat bastards that are in complete control, that are skull fucking the country, are doing so through socialism. Really. And MAGA is so freaking stupid, they don't even know the very basics of what the mechanics are of democracy or the law or the ideal of our economic engine, i.e. capitalism. They're so gullible and so vulnerable and so incredibly ignorant to what our country is supposed to be, let alone the history of what this country has gone through. But guess what? They're not the only ones. We've got people in primetime television that work for platforms by the actual testimony of their CEO on the fact of places like Fox that they're a platform of lies. Same with all of mainstream media in the echo chamber. They all, are in a circle jerk of high school reactionary to things that are Donald Trump, that have got everybody's focus, when meanwhile, Donald Trump is the ultimate mirror reflection of everything that I am trying to get through to the millions of people that need to understand that we are a corrupt enterprise that is now fueling fascism, which is antithetical to the law, to democracy, to upward mobility, to free market capitalism. None of that is what we are. We're a corporate fascist state undergirded by a criminal syndicate that uses socialism to guarantee, with the full faith and credit of the United States, the mafiocracy, which is our financial system, that all these goons on the right that are billionaires from the system, from the aforementioned, be it military, industrial, gun manufacturing, fossil fuel, conservative ideology, paying for the new Confederacy. And what are we doing? We're like, tired? You're tired? You want to stick your head in the sand more than you have the last 13 years? Look, newsflash, the Saudis got away with whatever their role was in 9/11. What does that mean? Well, let me give you an example. What if we had a fixation and an incredible national, addiction to sushi, right? So the Japanese attack us on Pearl Harbor, and we do nothing because we can't wean ourselves from sushi. Imagine how stupid that would be and what the outlook of the world would look like. But that's exactly what took place with the Saudis and 9/11. Am I saying that Saudi 11, brain hived and were the masterminds of 9/11? No, I'm not saying that. That's quite frankly like saying that Donald Trump was the mastermind of January 6th. He wasn't. He's a freaking idiot. But he certainly went along for the ride. And the only thing that Donald Trump actually knows how to play as well as anybody on stupidity. And he knows how to manipulate and exploit cowards and ignorance. That's what he does. He finds people that are so stupid that he wants to get that have been there the whole time. If you're just new to America, for example, let's just say you're coming up and you're 18 to 19 years old, and you're like, look, we got a kind of a contradictory history, and that we're aware there's a lot of white people that think they're better than black people. They hate trans, they hate this, they hate that. Yeah, they've been around for a long time. And we had the Confederacy in the United States for a long time prior to Jim Crow and everything else, which is manipulation by white supremacy to basically perverse and invert what we all think we're supposed to be, i.e. a democracy. And all the right-wingers and the Republicans are going to remind us all the time, no, we're a constitutional republic, right? Where we have a representative democracy. Yeah, that's called ruled by the minority, i.e. tyranny. Let's have a confederacy, you fucking morons. The bottom line is, do you have any idea how many wars we've had from the very beginning, from the revolution against the tyranny of King George III and the East India Trading Company and the Brits and the Redcoats and the Navy and all the rest of it, into ultimately our own diabolical behavior for the verticals of slavery. We break away from that through the Civil War. We ultimately end up with the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and others in order to form a more perfect union. Then we have 100 years of progressive movements from the labor unions, the environmental movements, the women's suffrage, and what am I missing? I mean, farmers' revolution that all culminated in first Teddy Roosevelt's trust busting, and then ultimately FDR's The New Deal. And then everything's post-Kennedy, which is a big question mark, of course, because of whatever the CIA did and what that means in the construct of the power. And I could go on about that for eons, which is a perverse inverse of everything we're supposed to be, which reveals exactly what I told you. So what I am fighting for, I am the producer of a television series that is now free called The Con. You can find it at www.thecon.tv. Who am I? Who is Patrick Lovell? Well, I'm a dude, man. I'm a dude who, like, growing up, I played football. I was in a fraternity. I dedicated myself to everything I ever wanted to do. I traveled a lot. I became a total adventure guy. Traveled around the world skiing and snowboarding and surfing and all that kind of stuff for a while. And then I got into Hollywood, and then I became a producer. And as a producer, I did a lot of things where I got, like a front row seat to really exciting things. I've worked with Metallica and Green Day and some of the biggest names in Hollywood and so forth, as well as sports, and action sports has always been my thing. But it was because of the 2008 great financial crisis. And by the way, I just happened to study political science, which was my thing. I've always been really kind of obsessed with power and how power operates, but I'm a dynamic guy who believes in the American dream, and that you find a way through all of this process to realize your dreams, and that's the greatest experience achievement of all time. That's kind of my worldview, right? But what happened at the end of 2008 was suddenly things didn't make sense. And so I went on this incredible journey that took me years and years and years as an investigative journalist to put all the most important people on camera that came from the FBI, the DOJ, the SEC, and AGs around the country, and other elements of the story that reveals the largest criminal conspiracy and cover-up in history that destroyed north of tens of millions of people and led to tens of trillions of dollars going to the motherfuckers that blew up the world. And we let them get away with it. And as a result of that, MAGA was born, which was already a part of the Tea Party, which was already a part of the Jim Birch Society, which was already a part of whatever the Jim Crow scenario was, which stemmed from the Confederacy. They've always been there. And there's always been a constant, fight for power and control in this country. And what are our choices right now? Our choices on the right, which we're going to see in this Republican debate, all of which are a bunch of freaking bozos, minus Donald Trump, who've got no vision of the country. They're just freaking parrot heads for this deep state, and it is a deep state to all of you. What did we call it a few years ago with God, I can't even think of the thing that had everybody's attention forever. It'll come to me in a minute, man. Which I think was a deep state incarnation, by the way. That had everybody, okay, the conspiracy, who's in control, and everything else that was part and parcel to the January 6th situation. But it's the billionaires that control, these diabolical vectors of media, which they're now deeply, deeply enmeshed in, Twitter with Elon Musk, who shocks the hell out of me. The genius, new paradigm, the paradigmatic shift to renewable energy, and this genius with rocket science and all the rest of it turns out to be what? Apartheid? Are you freaking kidding me? When you look at X, I got turned off of X the other day because I was joking around on a John Cusack thread, and I said something that got me thrown into X jail. How about that? When you see all of these right-wing Republicans, and all of these, I'm talking like deep, diabolical people that would like to trend anti-Semitism, among other things, and these guys are allowed to flourish. And I do know, for example, a lot of these guys are attacking people that I follow, like Mayo is Spicy, and threatening to murder and kill her, and they're not actually thrown into X jail, but a guy who actually says something funny without actually making any actual specific references to anyone in particular, just kind of just a generic sort of statement. I got in trouble because of the way that X is fomenting hate right now. And that's part and parcel of this stuff, which has been around for a long time. Russia and its engineers of its intelligence system, I can't remember, these guys are like an extension of the KGB within, writing, code and so forth. They created this hate fest back in 2016. They're known as Russian bots, and they got involved with Cambridge Analytica, and there's cross references with billionaires here, and these guys have absolute control. They're not the only ones, okay? And so we're in this situation where it's like the United States government is finally exercising its power with all of the firepower it has with the Department of Justice and its collective agencies, with DAs and AGs and all of those sorts of scenarios that are all, circling the wagons around Donald Trump because he's public enemy number one. Because, yes, he indeed is a threat to the United States and the rule of law and everything else. And he's basically, a thumb in the eye of everything the United States is supposed to be. But at the same time, he's a reflection of everything we haven't done to our financial system that I'm telling you is monumentally bigger than all things Donald Trump. Because we didn't take care of 9/11 the way we should have, because 2008 let Wall Street get away with the largest criminal conspiracy and cover-up in history that never ended, what else are we going to get besides MAGA? So I'm leading the charge against fascism and corruption, because corruption burrs and fuels fascism, and because I've got the $29 trillion truth that most of you would rather watch some pole dancing, chick, or some guy dropping a cliff, or, puking at a bar, whatever exists. There's so many things to, occupy our brain and our mind, except what's going on. We've known about climate problems and climate change for 30, 40 freaking years, and then the oil financial industrial complex has been able to control the airwaves and create all sorts of manipulative tactics that people who don't understand anything, that are just there to basically go to a job, like George Carlin said, where they can do just enough to actually do what their job is, but dumb enough not to ask questions. Yeah, that's the society that we live in. And what I've got and what I put in the con is the ultimate largest investigation that, Congress did but didn't do. That's how ridiculous this is. We did the Federal Crisis Inquiry Commission, and media had no idea what the hell was going on. Same with the national mortgage settlement, same with all of these settlements with the banks. But what it means overall is that millions of pieces of documentation were used to create liar's loans through deceptive acts and practices, to create trillions of dollars of derivatives around the world that gave short-term profits to the CEOs through Gresham's dynamic, that were defrauding the United States of America through a racketeering enterprise, which is exactly what the United States government is circling the wagons around Donald Trump. But let these guys, these clowns, these freaking diabolical assholes to basically become kings of a modern society. Is that okay with you? Well, it's not okay with me, because it's anti-American. And I'm a patriot, and I'm a brawler, and I'm a fighter for justice and liberty, and I want dynamism because I want the professionals in position to do their job, to hold power to account. And it goes much, much deeper and further than Donald Trump. You ever hear of Purdue Pharma? Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of people got addicted to fentanyl that these guys were prescribing that died, that they then went bankrupt so that the billionaires could take off with their money and throw it into art galleries and all of these different nonprofit mechanisms that basically hide what these guys got away with, which is murder? That was the exact same thing to a much larger degree with Wall Street that got set everybody up in this bullshit Ponzi scheme on housing based on liar's loans. And it's all in the con at www.thecon.tv. And what I'm trying to do is create a tidal wave populist crusade built of patriots to purge corruption and drown fascism. If you, me, and everyone you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in dignity, decency, integrity, sustainability, beauty, we come together, we merge in unity, we will put our knee on the neck of corruption, and it'll be our destiny to create the clean new deal. That's what I'm pushing, and I need everybody to get involved. Why? Because billionaires spend billions to grift trillions. We've given $70 trillion to criminals since 2009. And you don't know that because the entire system is lying to you. And I've got the answers. And what I'm asking you to do for your country, just like I'm Uncle Sam, is contribute $13 to this tidal wave crusade to purge corruption in honor of the original 13 colonies who had the courage to sack up against the greatest power in the history of the world at that time, and they defeated them to create separation of powers and the Bill of Rights in order to form a more perfect union. And we've been trying to figure it out ever since with a bunch of like a stock market ticker tape, up and down, up and down. Why? Because nothing is ever perfect and people aren't perfect. But I got to tell you, there's a big difference between the way the system tries to behave in a way that holds power to account, contrary to power having complete control and everybody lying to you. Take a look at the GoFundMe down below. Can you afford $13 that you maybe don't spend at Starbucks or fast food or Netflix or whatever? And by the way, you might ask yourself, hey Patrick, if you're so good, if everything you said, why aren't you on HBO? Because that would have credibility. Or why aren't you on Netflix? Because you would have. Because they get their money and their financing from the system that we reveal. That's why. Everybody's in on it. I'm sorry to shout, man. It's like everybody in this country is trying to find the right thing. And you can't be all things to all people. And everybody wants it, spoon-fed to them a specific way. And everybody knows everything. But in the end, nobody knows shit. Nobody understands that the juggernaut is a financial system that, have you ever heard the terminology that he who has the gold makes the rules? Okay, that's the situation. And that's the way it's always been throughout history. But guess what? We had a revolution to create a constitutional framework through the Bill of Rights that has laws that are supposed to hold power to account. And what I'm telling you is the system didn't do its job. And by the way, when I'm asking you for $13, I want you to understand it took years and years of my life, tens of thousands of hours of effort to get it exactly right, and $4.5 million, which would mean 357,000 of you would have to pony up $13 just to match what we put in the money into this thing, let alone everything else that it took to be able to make this. And then we had to cross the T's and dot the I's to make sure that we could get this to the public with getting our heads sewed off by the most powerful law firms in the entire world that work for these ginormous financial behemoths. And you know what? There might be another financial crisis just around the corner. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as 2008. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as 1929. But if it is, given this environment that we're in, fascism comes next. So what happened after the Great Depression is exactly what I'm trying to overcome and deliver to you now. There was an investigation by an attorney by the name of Ferdinand Pecora, who was a Sicilian immigrant, who basically laid out all the evidence of what happened with the Great Depression that was created by Wall Street at the time. And that's what gave us laws to give us stability and become the superpower that we became. Was it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect? No. Is it better than what absolute fascism and corruption is? You bet your ass it is, especially when we got a climate situation where we're going off the cliff in no time. Everything is connected to corruption, okay? That's why we got to create a clean new deal. Failure is not an option. Onwards and upwards. Rise, roar, revolt. Thanks for listening.